Hey everyone, welcome back to another Fall Obsession podcast. My name is Sam Thrash. I'm your host over here. Thank you for pressing play on another one of our episodes. This week, my conversation is absolutely incredible. I don't know how else to frame it. I'm talking with Aaron Davidson. He's the CEO of Gunwerks, and if you guys don't know what Gunwerks is, you need to go look them up, check them out, their website and on social media, or just keep listening to this podcast because Aaron talks a lot about just the precision and the perfection and the attention to detail that goes into the Gunwerks products and the Gunwerks brand, the innovation that drives this organization, and just the next level stuff that they are putting out when it comes to being a firearm manufacturer is incredible. And hearing him talk about it, you guys know I'm a bow guy. I have guns, I shoot guns, but I bow hunt, and that's my bread and butter. But listening to him talk about this kind of stuff and educating myself on just this side of the industry has been very intriguing for me. And I truly enjoy this episode. We get into more stuff than just talking about his company and the brand and the mission and how they do everything. We also talk about some politics. We share some opinions in this episode. Hopefully, you guys aren't like, "Oh, Sam's bringing politics on Fall Obsession Podcast again." Let me guess, public lands. Yep, you're right. We talk about some public lands in that situation, but Aaron actually has a very unique perspective on that, one that really hadn't been shared on this show thus far, given the recent public land crisis stemming from Mike Lee in Utah. But Aaron is a Wyoming resident, and again, he shares his perspective in that regard and how he thinks some of these lands should be utilized as a conservative and as an avid hunter and outdoorsman himself. He's got a different thought on it, and I welcome it. So it's a great episode. I hope you guys enjoy this conversation. Very inspiring. Again, the innovative stuff that Gunwerks is doing is incredible. So hope you guys enjoy. Before we kick it off with Aaron, got to take care of some housekeeping real quick. First and foremost, whatever podcast platform you guys are using to listen to this episode, if you haven't hit that follow or subscribe button yet, please do that. Turn notifications on if that's an option. We drop new episodes every single week. I want you guys to know when we drop those new episodes. So again, make sure you are subscribed to the show. Head on over to the YouTube channel. If you guys like watching the podcast videos, the YouTube is where you can find those. The audio version of each episode every week drops on Monday, but the video version hits the YouTube every Thursday, so you guys can tune in on there. We are also doing some live shows every now and then on Fall Obsession Podcast with our guests. It's not every episode, but some of our episodes are also shared live on the YouTube, so you guys can tune in throughout the week sometimes to some live recordings and see what it's like behind the scenes prior to the editing room. Spoiler alert, it's probably not that much different, but if you guys like the live shows, they're there. Social media, guys, go check out Fall Obsession. We're on all the major social platforms out there that you are active on. We are there too. Our handle's either Fall Obsession or Fall Obsession Media. Go check us out. Fallobsession.com is the website. That's where you guys can go to find all of our content. Everything filters through there. Our films, our shows, our podcasts, our gear reviews, our educational articles, our wild game recipes, apparel in the store. You guys can find it all at fallobsession.com. Go check it out. And last but not least, if you guys haven't heard of Carbon TV, that's another thing you need to go look up. Carbon TV is a free streaming service for hunting shows, hunting films, podcasts, all that kind of stuff. You can pull it up and just go to town, start streaming immediately. Don't even have to put in any information or anything like that. It is a great platform with hundreds of different hunting shows and podcasts. There is something for you on there, and you will find 4 different Fall Obsession produced productions and shows on that platform. This podcast, our staff inspired video podcast series called Couch Chats, is on Carbon TV, as well as our 2 different hunting shows titled Texas Dirt and Midwest Mindset. Again, guys, all those can be streamed on Carbon TV. All right, enough of my rambling. We're going to get to this awesome conversation with Aaron Davidson, the CEO of Gunwerks. You guys are listening to another Fall Obsession podcast.
You got her, dude. She's down.
Let's go.
Dude, I just shot a deer of a lifetime.
Freaking smoked him.
One with nature, and if you're a believer, one with God.
Definitely gets your heart pumping. Boy, you are in trouble.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to another Fall Obsession podcast episode. My name is Sam Thrash. I'm your host over here, and this week I am joined by Aaron Davidson, the CEO of Gunwerks. Welcome to Fall Obsession podcast, man.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
Man, I'm super stoked for this one. This is definitely a great opportunity to have somebody like you on the show. But I want to start off just to break the ice for our listener base and everybody. Tell us who you are and where this journey began for you in hunting, the outdoors, working toward this organization that you have, this company called Gunwerks. Where did it all start?
I had a brother that was nuts about hunting growing up, and I didn't really catch the bug until I was an engineering student and really started to get into guns and firearms and kind of the art of the shot. And I had a hard time with the concept of working for somebody for the rest of my life as an engineer in a cubicle and decided to kind of blaze my own trail and started Gunworks just a couple years out of college 2 decades ago.
Wow. So what did it look like back then? Because right now, especially if you go on your social media, you look at all the awesome stuff you guys are rolling out and just I saw a video that was fairly recent just talking about one of your machinists and the precision that he puts into his craft and how many different products he's putting out. What did it look like 20 years ago? Was it just a limited amount of items in particular?
So we started Gunworks. I say we, but I started Gunworks in my garage. Had a 3,000 square foot garage. It was bigger than my house back then. But I started it with the concept of a turnkey long range shooting system. So it started with a rifle, an optic, ammunition, and a turret that was ballistically matched for your rifle's individual performance. And so we would sell that turnkey system to a client ready to shoot out of the box. In fact, we trademarked the term 1,000 yards out of the box.
Hmm. Wow.
We I guess to dive in a little deeper. So we
Yeah.
were what you would call kind of an assembler. So we were buying a rifle stock, we were buying a action, we're buying a barrel, and we were doing the assembly and finish of those parts. We designed our rifle stock. That's one of the things that we got out of our engineering education was an understanding of the performance geometries of a rifle stock and how to make rifles behave by manipulating those geometries. And so we had a very specific rifle stock design that we still hold a lot of those design geometries today in our modern designs. But so we started there, and then as we grew and got bigger, we started just eating different parts and pieces of that, and now our manufacturing is fully integrated vertically. So we do composite rifle stocks, we do barrel manufacturing and carbon fiber barrels. We do receiver manufacturing. So we make all of those parts and pieces in our shop.
Wow. And does it take like how big is your team now having to make all that different kind of stuff? Do you have a group of people who are well versed in all of these things, or do you have folks who have just a niche with a certain thing in particular?
So we're 100 people. So with 100 people in across an organization like that, we do have a lot of specialists. We've got a significant engineering staff, whether it's design or manufacturing engineering. We've got a production organization management and leadership team. Lots of people that do things that specialize but are cross-trained. So, somebody might run a machine. One gal works for me. She runs the machine that inlets stocks, She does some pre-finish work, stock assembly, and then she can also slip out onto the shop floor and make suppressor parts if we need to fill in on a machine. So we do a lot of cross training with our team so that they can do lots of things.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely. So what, and I always like asking a little bit about just the background and the journey for individuals or companies and stuff like this. I find it intriguing. But what was the jump like to go from where you were to where you are today? Because I have people local, right, on a very small scale that build firearms, right? But taking it from your garage, as you said, to a brand like this, a company like this that puts out the the rifles and the products that you guys do, what did that look like for you guys?
It wasn't a jump, it was a grind.
Yeah,
That's the first thing.
yeah.
The second one was it's probably the innovation and technological improvement and the willingness to go do something that's new that the market hasn't seen
Mm,
that allowed us to bring a new product or to bring a new excitement around our products and be able to grow just a little bit bigger and produce just a little bit more to generate more profit that we could use to reinvest. I think that probably the key thing that's significant. So you go look at a rifle assembler, which, and again, not knocking, just it's a thing that's very easy to do. You can buy a stock, you can buy a barrel and an action. You can even buy a pre-fit barrel that you don't even have to have a machine to install. And you in your garage, I had a 3,000 square foot garage that was full of machines and stuff. I mean, you could do this in a 500 square foot garage and you could do 40 45 guns a year. You have to start paying excise tax at 50, which is an 11% tax on what you sell. So
mhm,
if you go look at the ATF report, you can go see where everybody's numbers are, and you see a lot of 20s, 30s, and 40s. There's several hundred builders that make 20 to 40 guns a year,
mhm.
and these guys are just assembling some guns, and I've already set the price for what a system should be worth, right?
Right.
So we go out there, we set this price, so now everybody else basically assembles, and then they say, okay, well, we sell for 1,000 less than Gunwerks. And if you look at the delta between what they paid for the parts and what they're selling for, not having to pay insurance, not having a big overhead nut to cover with a facility and machines and equipment, they don't do any design or new product development. So they have zero engineering department, et cetera. What
Mhm,
happens is those guys can make a pretty comfortable living with that smaller quantity and keeping it small.
mhm.
And so the bridging the gap between that really nice, comfortable living and going to, full on, I'm going to grow a business, I'm going to provide, jobs, I'm going to, make payroll, I'm going to be a force in the community, in the industry. Like that's a different commitment and it's a different level of aggression towards, what your daily grind looks like.
No, absolutely. Yeah, summed it up perfectly. I want to segue a little bit just with the products themselves that you're talking about and everything. What, in addition to what you already mentioned, as far as the differences as from somebody who's assembling versus somebody who's manufacturing, what sets Gunworks apart?
Well, I would say that it is the drive and the ability to innovate and do something new. That's probably the big difference.
Hmm.
So it started with myself and my ability to, you know, make a new design or a new change or a new effort, and that expanded into being able to hire a whole team that can execute that vision. We probably invest more money into our engineering and R&D every year than we make in profit. Let's
Wow.
put it that way. If you look back, so we started in '05, '06, shipped our first product in '07, idea of a ballistic matched turret that was customized to your gun, not some generic thing. It's like nobody knew anything about this.
Mhm.
Our first patent we filed in '05. It was around the ballistic turrets and the customization process that was there. So that idea of this really simple system that hunters could use to shoot very far without, having extensive training and, dedicating their whole lives to learning how to, to do Kentucky windage and send lead out there. So they just applied this simple system. So that turnkey out of the box approach was something that really got a lot of excitement
Oh,
and
yeah.
and put our brand on the map for sure.
Hey guys, sorry to cut y'all off from the conversation. We'll get back to it in just a second. But first, I want to tell you guys about Hoot Camo. Hoot Camo is one of the best camouflage brands out there for the blue collar hunter. The prices, you can't beat them. The patterns are extremely versatile. They work in so many different environments. I have worn Hoot Camo hunting whitetails, hogs, and turkeys down here in the hardwoods, the mesquites, the scrub brush of Texas. I've worn it in the flatland plains of eastern Colorado hunting mule deer. I've even worn it in the mountains of central Idaho hunting elk. It works in so many different places. It is extremely high quality gear, extremely warm, holds up well against the elements. You cannot beat it. Go to hootcamo.com, use the code FallObsession15 on your next order, no matter how big or small it is, and check out everything that Hoot Camo has on there for you guys.
The that ballistic match turret became popular with every scope manufacturer very quickly, and some third-party providers. Right immediately after that, we launched a ballistic rangefinder. That was 2011 that came out. That was the first rangefinder that had a ballistic solver in it.
Mm.
There was some rangefinders that had some data tables, pick cartridge category A, B, C, or D, and it would maybe out to 400 or 500 yards give you some holdover stuff. But we did a real solution that you could push the button on and have a solution that would get you to 800, 900 yards, with some wind holds. And we didn't have a competitor in a handheld rangefinder with ballistics until 5 years later,
Wow.
and that was the Leica HDBs. And when those came to the market, we actually built the online software that you used. When you go to Leica, you're actually going to a software program that we wrote that would build the data tables that would go on the little SD card that would go into the device. And
Wow.
then SIG came out with theirs shortly after that, their monocular. But I mean, we had the only solution for almost 5 years. And then we've done laser range finding binoculars, the BR4. We did the first real smart scope, real scope smart in providing a total ballistic solution in 2017. That was our first smart scope. Little heads-up display, full environmental, full vector solution. You turn the turret, it tells you your ballistic calculations in real time. Like we built that and put it out on the market in 2017. We've got our Gen 2 version of that now. But just looking at the ballistic technology side, and I mean, we were doing a ballistic solver online called the G7 calculator, and we even had a little Palm Pilot handheld before Applied Ballistics was even a company or Hornady even thought about doing a long range bullet. Like
Wow.
we've been at this a very, very long time. And I do believe we've inspired a lot of great products in the industry that, you know, have taken inspiration from where we're going and have added to the solutions that hunters can have. So I think that innovation and drive to bring better solutions to market is a hallmark of our company. If you look at the rifle side, I think our stock tech is probably some of the best innovations that we've seen in the industry, uh, since I started getting into guns, where everybody kind of had that classic American style, or they had these really wild Weatherby style stocks that, you know, even like a Macmillan A3, they were kind of designed for looks rather than function. And we've built a system with a certain set of stock geometries that you can see being adopted across every stock manufacturer and rifle manufacturer in the industry right now. We kept our
Wow.
mouths shut about what these did and how they worked for over a decade, but then it starts to get out and people start to see what's going on, and then they start to emulate, which is fine. That's the way the world works. I think that stock geometry and the idea of a shooting system, kitting things together to be balanced, I think that's really had an impact on the industry. It's given rise to a lot of aftermarket awesomeness and a lot of great rifle assembly guys that are really putting together some good products. Like you can go put together some really great stuff now and compare that to 20 years ago. It just you just didn't have those options back then. I think we had a big influence on cartridges for hunting. We've trained several thousand people in our long range hunting school. Our first school we had in 2007, and terminal ballistics was a big part of that. And our whole class, hinged around the the science of shooting, and that means chasing ballistic coefficient rather than just velocity.
Hmm.
And so I think there was a big impact that we had there on the future of bullet performance, bullet design, bullets that hit the market. Um, I think there was a big movement there that happened about that time that we were making that public. And we weren't necessarily, strictly the only people playing in this space, but we were doing it in a big way, and we were putting the money and effort into marketing it and showing
Right.
the world through our TV show, what could be accomplished. And I think that had a big impact in, helping get everybody pointed the right way on this.
Yeah. Very detailed answer and golly, very innovative. It's impressive for sure. I actually, so you might have to tell me a little bit about how the process works, but if I understand it correctly, like if somebody wants, I'm thinking of those like ballistic turrets, like what you're talking about, they send their whole weapon in, and do you guys do that in house, or does somebody else do that for you guys? How does that process work?
Yeah, we do our stuff in house, man. I mean,
Okay.
I like control. I
Yeah.
I like control a lot more than profit. Sometimes it's cheaper to send stuff out, but I like the control of doing it ourselves. Um, we have always served people with a scope mount package where you can send a gun and we'll tune it up and install one of our rifle scopes and calibrate the ballistics. That's something that we do. The vast majority of our customers uh, just buy a rifle system,
Hmm.
and then we're assembling the whole kit here and setting it up and sending a customer a completed turnkey system.
Gotcha. So the first time that I ever heard of Gunwerks was actually I was filming for a hunt in Texas, and that's where I'm from. But we did a veteran hunt out here a few years consecutively, and one of the hosts out there, the rifle that he carries, and keep in mind this is flat. We're hunting whitetail, but this is flat, wide open country. Like it, you can see forever. And he had a firearm, and he knows far more about firearms and ballistics and everything than I do. He's done his homework. I'm an archery guy at heart, so I sometimes I feel like I'm struggling to keep up with some of the gun talk, but he had one of those turrets, and he was comfortable shooting several of hundreds of yards, and had in his lifetime since he had that weapon taken shots at several hundreds of yards at whitetails and killed them. And so I asked him, I was like, how do you get that dialed in? And he's like, I sent it in, and they made it for me. They made it custom. I was like, that's freaking cool, man. It's
Yeah.
it's awesome how that shaked out. So it was cool to get to see the product and everything. And like I said, that was kind of my introduction to this for me to know who you guys were from that point on. Because like I said, I'm an archery nerd. So
Well, it's basically the equivalent of dialing your pins in, right? You've got a pin. If it's on at 30 yards, you hold it on, you shoot. It's the same thing. You dial it to 300 or 400 or 500 and hold it on and shoot.
Well, and I have a healthy appreciation for the long range shooting side of it because I've been doing archery long enough that I'm shooting well, over 100 yards with my bow on a regular basis and that kind of stuff. So I love playing with long distance in that regard, and I understand the principles of it, and can nerd out with some of that with from the firearm side as well. So
It's kind of all the same. Yeah, the archery side is a little different in that if you're going to do long ballistics, you have to, let's say, true your trajectory.
Hmm.
Whereas in the rifle space, the modern uh, ballistic measurements of bullets and muzzle velocities, et cetera, are getting so good that you don't really need to true until you start shooting a long ways away. So I think there's a lot of sophistication in our industry right now, which makes it fairly easy
Yeah,
to be successful with.
absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that. So what's the R&D, the field testing processes? What does all that look like from your standpoint when you guys are trying to put out a product that is precise and perfect?
It's crazy, and maybe a better company with smarter guys can do it faster than this, but but I find that it takes us about 3 years to do a significant rifle development
Mm.
and to actually get it on the market and to get it up and running in manufacturing. The optic space, if it's a very simple product, it's a 18-month to 2 year project. But I have, our current Gen 2 Radical. Now, keep in mind, this is a Gen 2, so we had a lot of the knowledge we had in place, but like it was 6+ years to get that product done.
Mm,
Now,
wow.
a lot of these guys that just go white label a Chinese or a Japanese optic, where they just go say, all right, what do you got? Okay, we'll put my brand on it and, put my reticle in it and let's go. That might only take 12 months, right? It's pretty cheap, pretty
Yeah.
easy. 12 months and $10,000, but to go do a product like that radical, I mean, it was probably pushing 7 years to the market. And then it I probably spent, $1.2 million, you know, with engineering and
Wow.
development on that product. So there's a range there that you can see is pretty significant on that product development. Now, again, there's white label, and a lot of guys probably aren't savvy to this in the industry, but there's white label where you basically just go put your name on another product, and and then there's true product development where you do the engineering development from first principles, and then there's a big mix in between. We on a lot of our rifle scopes, we're using an OEM optical system that we do all of our mechanical design and electrical system development and integration to.
Hmm.
So there's some hybrid space in between. On the rifle side, anytime you try to do something new, you turn uh, you open up the door to big problems. We did a ground up rifle design called the Nexus rifle system, which was an aluminum receiver with a changeable barrel system.
Mm.
So the barrel had a barrel extension, and you could change it as a user. And it was pretty much a clean sheet design. We reused a trigger, but other than that, we designed every part on that and then manufactured that. And it was a pretty intense project. And we thought we were ready to launch it, a couple years in on an April, and we actually didn't get it to market for another year after that. You
Wow.
just keep finding, things to improve. We're just getting ready to launch the Gen 2 version of that. So we're always improving what we have and making it better. And like I think we reduced our bolt lift 35% on this Gen 2 version without sacrificing anything. And
Mm.
just the production, the prototyping and testing, 1,000 cycles here, 5,000 cycles there, just to make sure that things don't fail. And then things fail. So
Right.
then you have to beef up the design and change it. And just it's pretty intense to go through that
Yeah.
on a clean sheet design. So a lot of our customers recognize that extra little 5% or 10% that they're getting, on a specialized design and the benefits that you get from that, and they're willing to pay the cost that it takes to make that happen. But you take a Remington 700 clone and assemble, like we talked about with the assemblers, and you can get a product that just really performs very well for a lot less on the dollars. So
Yeah.
it kind of just depends on the client base and the customers and what they're looking for.
So let me ask this. You're throwing around time frames that are years. Like you went up to with one of your discussions just now, like 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
Is there is there a component that if let me back up. I need to say this right. If you are producing a unique product in that time frame, is there a just an advancement in technology like component to that to where if it's taking this long, are we actually falling behind when it comes to the technology available to that this product is either going to provide or what we have to produce this product? Does that make sense?
Nobody's dumb enough to do uh products that are so over the top. Only me. Everybody else has somebody smart running their business so they don't lose money. And
It seems to be working for
and
you so far.
I don't know, man. We waste a lot of money doing cool shit that doesn't ever pay off. So no, here's a funny story. That first product we started in 2013. The PMR. So this is the Gen 1 of our Smart Scope.
Hey folks, if you guys are in the North Texas area like I am, then you need to go to Bear River Archery and Pro Shop in Van Alstyne, Texas. Justin and the guys up there have an incredible operation set up. They will take great care of you and all of your archery needs. They are the official bow shop in North Texas of Fall Obsession. I love going there, and I'm picky. If you guys know me, I am very selective on who I let work on my bow. I will let Justin work on my bow. They do great stuff. Check out Bear River Archery and let them know that Fall Obsession sent you.
We started that in 2013, and we didn't launch it until August of 2017. So there was 4.5 years there. We thought we were going to do it for about a quarter million, and I think we put about 1.8 into that first product.
Wow.
And so we learned a lot of stuff there. But in the middle of that development, we had this product that had like a 7 segment display. You could look through the scope, you could see the display. And we found out about this new product that this little startup in France was making, this little micro OLED. It was about half the size of my pinky nail, and it was like 300 pixel by 250 pixel in dimension. And we're like, holy smokes, if we use this display instead of this piece of crap that we were going to put in there, we could do all this crazy stuff with it. So we literally took our project and turned it on its head, stopped all production. We waited on those guys for like 6 or 8 months. They finally got us some prototypes of theirs, and then we incorporated that product into ours and had to redo the entire user interface and everything. Like we had to tell every pixel how to turn on. We built our own
Wow.
drivers for it and all the code to make it work. We incorporated that thing and we launched that product in 2017. We were the first product in the world to feature one of those micro OLEDs. So yeah, we if we would have stayed on the path, we would have been outdated
Hmm.
completely by the time we launched. But I think that's maybe one of the pivots that helped us, stay relevant. But we still have a very significant product in that family with the Radical. We're what, 25? I mean, that's almost a decade later, and it's still like Vortex doesn't want to make a product like that. SIG doesn't want to make a product like that. Leopold doesn't, because the market isn't asking for it, right? It's so specialized and it's so high tech and it's so hard to build. Like it costs us 3 times as much money to build that product as just a regular rifle scope. It's
Wow.
just intense. And nobody wants to sign up for that when they can just sell more, awesome 5 to
Yeah, more
25s
scopes.
than
Yeah.
they can build.
Yeah. Wow. It's so interesting. I have a company that is a tiny little speck compared to compared to what you guys are. So it's always interesting to hear just I don't know. I'm just intrigued by all of it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I do want to ask you, as far as legislation and some of the political climates as it impacts hunting and your customer base, right? How much does that kind of stuff, hunting rules, regs, changes in that, how much does that affect? what you guys are doing, and how important is that to what you guys are doing?
We've seen some impact on the Smart Scope product. That's an area that some people have attacked pretty early, on the Smart Scope. So basically, hey, you can't. I think what happened was Tracking Point down there in Texas made one of those scopes that was pretty smart and connected to the trigger, so it literally was shooting. When you'd line everything up, it would shoot the gun for you, and people thought that was too far, and it got some reactionary legislation right off the bat, and
Hmm.
we've kind of seen that turn into a little bit of a slippery slope. I Me personally, my personal, like, separate from business so that the business factor is not there, because obviously my business is long range hunting and shooting, and technology, and so obviously my business position would be I'm opposed to legislation in that area. But if we back up and say Aaron Davidson personal, I am a very conservative person. I am a libertarian, at heart. I I do not believe in uh, s- government regulation and oversight to the extreme that we see it. I think if we went back and showed our founding fathers what our governments have become, and even more so what our people have become, I think they would be very disappointed in us. And the concept of trying to legislate ethics, or the idea that somebody else wants to impose their ideas and say, my ideas are better than your ideas, and my ideas should be what you have to follow. I mean, that sounds to me like the trans cult nonsense. So when I see somebody out there proposing legislation to limit long range hunting technology, I see that person and I put them in the same category as, the people that are pushing trans ideology, or the butchers that want to mutilate kids because they have this idea that they think's right, that they think everybody else should adopt and accept. And it's just as crazy to me,
Right.
because it's this idea somehow that your morals and your ethics and your feelings, right? And we're kind of getting to that liberal softy, approach of your feelings somehow trump somebody else's liberty,
Hmm.
right? And I think that's where we're at with this long range hunting, limits. And I think it comes down to the play is on ethics. There's an ethical thing and there's the fair chase thing, which is all bullshit in my opinion. That's all. That's a screen or a cover. The real play is the powers that be want to put more people in the field hunting with lower success rates, so they can sell more tags, so they can appease more angry pitchforks, right? Because if there's less hunting, right, then you have the sheep out there, with their pitchforks saying, well, the reason why there's less hunting is because somebody else is successful. It's almost like a communist attitude or a socialist attitude. They need to tear down somebody else's success so that they can have something that they don't think that they have.
Right.
It's crazy, but that's what's going on. And if we separated the legislative funding of game departments, et cetera, from the collection of tag incomes, then I wonder if the government would be so keen about the restrictions. But I think right now they've got a financial incentive to create less success with more opportunity by limiting other people's abilities. So I think there's some financial thing there.
Yeah, it is crazy to me just the point that we've gotten to with the influence of politics in hunting in the outdoors. I just it baffles me, and we've been very tuned into a lot of stuff in the last year. We were very vocal with the whole ballot box thing that's been going on in Colorado with those respective issues and
Oh yeah,
everything, and we can
feelings,
probably, yeah, we can't
feelings, right?
exactly.
It's feelings trumping liberty.
Yes, and they being the left-leaning anti-hunting extremists are playing on the emotions of the uneducated is what they're doing to influence uh decisions and to create laws and regulations at this point. And it's I agree with everything you said. It is very, very troubling to me that
You know,
that's
the
the point
the
we've come to.
you expect those people to do those things. What I fear and what bothers me the most is we see inside our own community this drive to take away somebody else's choices, right? This drive to enforce your idea and opinion on everyone else. And that is a leftist tactic. That's a socialist tactic. That is a trans ideology tactic. Like that is the way all of those crazies behave and and view the world. Even more concerning, that's the way they view the world, and they believe that government should step in and solve everybody's problems. And I see this. I actually was just reading a thread on Rockslide that I got sucked into. It's 22 pages discussing Wyoming's new proposed changes to their laws and legislation to limit long range hunting. And the majority of the people on that site, I mean, there's some people that are liberty minded that pipe in, but the majority of the people over there, like, it's like, I'll take away your freedoms to get more opportunity for myself.
Yeah.
That's their position. And these are people that are inside our community.
Yeah.
Boone and Crockett had their thing, several years ago where they, came out in their position about long range hunting and shooting, and it's very interesting to see the tactics of the left and the mentality and worldview of the left, kind of infiltrate and take over our community, which you would think would be conservative and you think would be liberty minded, but it's not always the case.
No, it's not. We
I always like to tease. I would rather the game departments manage for quality, limit the tags, right? Just limit the tags so that when you do draw a tag, you get to go hunting. I don't hunt general elk in Wyoming. I haven't for over a decade. I will wait every, 3 or 4 years. I'll draw a tag and I'll go hunt and have an opportunity and have fun. It's like, fine, just limit the tags because when I go hunting, I actually am totally alpha male and I'm going hunting so I can kill something. Opportunity is stupid. Like I think what we should do is for all these softies that want to spend time in the woods, we'll issue them a hiking permit. And so they can go hiking. We'll give them a toy wooden gun with open sights. It's a primitive weapon, and we'll send them out there to have an opportunity,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then all the alphas that are out there to kill shit, we'll actually go hunting, right? We'll
I
go kill something.
I gained a healthy respect for a lot of stuff that you're talking about last year. I went on a backcountry Idaho elk hunt and the whole deal, like 25 miles back on horseback, uh, deep into the mountains in central Idaho. And I mean, this Texas boy was struggling a little bit up there, just being a flatlander and everything. But man, I gained a healthy respect for um, just the effort that goes into something like that. It was my first elk hunt, and in the last 5, 7 years or so, I'm trying to do all the things that I've been saying that I'm going to do one day. You got to start doing them at some point, right? So that's been pronghorn, that's been mule
Yeah.
deer, and last year it was elk hunting. And um, but likewise, I was the only guy up there with a bow, and that's my own personal preference. I don't try to impose that on anybody, but I'm bow only, have been for 12 years, and just for my own hunting. But the guys that I'm up there with, they are long range rifle guys. They shoot long range shots. And my argument when I made the switch from rifle to bow was just for me hunting white-tailed deer in Texas. I was like, I want to work harder for this. I want to to feel like I'm hunting, right? And I know that that is the quote unquote fair chase argument that some people could make with all this kind of stuff. But then I get up there with these guys who are got setups to shoot hundreds out to 1,000 yards and all this crazy stuff up there in the mountains. And it's like, man, yeah, I mean that bull is way, way out there. But by golly, the amount of work that this dude just put in to not only just get here in the first place, to have a bull in front of him, but preparing himself with that weapon to be able to make a lethal and ethical shot. Like mad respect on this side. Like nobody can tell me that that's easy. It's not. That's
You
not
get a bull?
hunting.
Did you get a bull killed?
I did not. I did not punch my tag. I was full draw with a bull in my sights at 50 yards, and I could not get a clear shot. We had so much just dead undergrowth and everything, or deadfall that was in the way. And the guys, man, they went all out trying to get me one with a bow because, I mean, they all looked at me like I was crazy, but they're like, hey, if you want to do it, let's do it. So we did
Yeah.
end up killing that bull as a hunting party, because the plan was, hey, if Sam can't get it done with the bow, so, no opportunity is going to go. You know, we're going to take advantage of everything we have. So he ended up taking it with a rifle, when I wasn't able to do it with a bow. So, and that was cool too, because it was like, man, that was the first time that I've experienced just kind of the group hunting aspect, right? Down here in Texas, right? You share camp with somebody, but you all go to your respective spots to hunt. Um, but in that regard, it was like, man, all of us worked for this in a different capacity. So even though somebody else put their tag on it, it was our bull, and that was pretty cool. I enjoyed that a lot. So
Hey guys, Trophy Edits is a Fall Obsession podcast partner. We all have mounts on our walls that represent a significant moment, a significant harvest in the woods for each and every one of us, and photographs can do the same. I'm sure you guys have pictures from years past, hunting with loved ones or being in the woods with family and friends that also represent those big moments. And what Trophy Edits does is they showcase those moments for you guys, just absolutely make your pictures explode, and to the level that you guys can put them on the wall and also have that memory forever represented in your home, your office, your man cave, whatever it might be. Give Trophy Edits a chance to do the work for you guys. And again, they make those pictures just absolutely awesome with their professional team of editors. So go to Trophy Edits website. The link is in the podcast description. That lets them know that you guys came from us, and use the code FALLOBSESSION at checkout to save you guys some money.
I'm coming out of
Elk hunting with a bow at the right time is a pretty special experience. It would be great for everybody to be able to experience that at least once.
Well, man, and that was the interesting thing because, like I said, I'm up there with these long range rifle guys, and um, the my friend he's been hunting elk in those mountains for 23 years. Um, he he was more worked up than I was. Like he had buck fever out the wazoo, elk fever. He was shaking like a leaf, and I'm there with my bow, calm, cool, and collected, just waiting for my opportunity. And he's all worked up. And he's like, dude, I've never called one in this close. He said, for 20 plus years, I've been out here, trying to reach out and make these long range shots and working on that. So, and he goes, it's just as soon as you get the chance and the right setup, you take it. He goes, I've never been had a bull staring at me that close and bugling at me like that before in 20 years. It's like, well, there's a first for everybody on this trip, I guess. So, but what are your thoughts? Talking a little bit about politics. What are your thoughts on some of these recent public land issues? Because that's a Republican senator that's driving a lot of this. It kind of falls under that lane.
I watched that also, and I felt like if anybody didn't toe the line, anybody tried to step out of the lane, our our crowd, our hunting crowd, was going to try to cancel them. So if you look across the whole industry, everybody had to toe the line, everybody had to say the right things and be on the right side, or else you were canceled. And I
Mhm.
saw that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, here is our team, which should be conservative, which should be intelligent, which should be, able to have a conversation and really flesh out a subject. And we weren't at all. We were like this hive mind of that whole liberal mindset of you have to toe the line or we will cancel you. I looked at that and I said, because I live in Cody, Wyoming, and we are fairly landlocked with some BLM land around the city, and it's starting to drive prices up. You go up to Bozeman, prices are huge. You go to Jackson, prices are huge. Like the eventuality is that little communities like this potentially can get overrun with people, and the demand to live here outstrips the ability or the supply. And I think that's what Senator Mike Lee is seeing in his state of Utah is the same problem. So I go outside of town here like 3 or 4 miles, and there's this huge flat of sagebrush. Nobody hunts there. Like nobody recreates there. The only people that use that right now are, a big ranch that might have a grazing lease on it.
Mhm.
And so I look at that and I say, well, why can't we have a conversation about this? Because that would be a huge thing for a community like Cody at creating affordable housing, at creating the ability, like my business, we don't have enough people here to work. I'm trying to hire people all the time. It's hard to move people to Cody because nobody can buy a house. It's expensive, right? There's not a lot of options. Over the past few years, it's like I had people hired that were competing against other people that I hired on a house trying to outbid each other,
Oh man.
right? Because there just wasn't enough there. And so I look at that and I think about these communities everywhere in the West that are surrounded by these federal lands that are not being utilized for these other things that people are upset about. And I say, well, why can't we have a conversation about you know, preserving, what everybody's concerned about, but also providing, opportunity for people to live out west or bring the cost of living down. And I guess I have enough intelligence and enough emotional intelligence to realize that there is a middle ground that satisfies both parties and their objectives. But because of the way the political situation was on it, I just chose to keep my mouth shut because the last thing I need is cancel.
Yeah.
That's hard
It's-
for me because I do have strong opinions about things. But but I would like to see our side take a more intelligent approach to problems and talk them out, right? And be realistic and I think be a little suspicious of government for sure. But if we're suspicious of government, why do we want the government to own all the land? Right? It's
Correct.
like where in the Constitution does it say the government gets to own the US? Because they do right now. I mean, we all pay property taxes. If we don't pay property taxes, it's just like rent, right? If you don't pay it, they're going to evict you,
Right.
take away your home. So why does the government own all the land, even your house, even your property?
Yeah.
Why have we given away all of our liberty that way? I don't know. It drives me nuts, but it is what it is.
Yeah. I don't have a good answer for you. It goes back to the comment you made earlier. If our founding fathers could look back or look forward and see this, we 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 went to war over a whole lot less.
Yeah, I
It's
think
it's
so.
it's crazy. But no, it's an interesting perspective for sure, and I definitely appreciate that. I like hearing that from somebody such as yourself who is in a relevant spot to where you're looking at the land itself and
Hmm.
you see what it is and what it is not and what it could be. Um, I I'm guilty of falling into that just kind of there is only one way, not 1 acre, period, and a
Yeah,
story. Like
yeah.
if you look on our social media pages from when all that went down, there is a post, not 1 acre. And it I
Now
am
it's okay. It's okay to have that opinion. It's okay to have that opinion and to take that position. But what's not okay is to go after people that have a different opinion.
right.
Now it's okay to debate. It's okay to try to find the truth or to try to find a common ground or or to not, just to say this is my position and this is how I vote, period. That's okay. The trying to force other people to adopt your point of view through force, coercion, cancellation, that is not okay. And
Right.
that's what I saw that was very alarming and I kind of think a little disgusting. So like you see my difference that I'm making. It's okay to have that other position,
Right.
but to try to force others to have that position is what I find abhorrent.
I completely agree. I've since this whole thing simmered down, there's been several people, and you're one of them now that I've talked to that have had a unique perspective similar to yours about everything that's going down or how it went down. And I've kind of stopped myself like, oh, I've never thought about it from that standpoint. So let me ask you this though. That being your stance, as far as how Mike Lee was trying to go about doing this. What are your thoughts on that? Was he going about it in a way that would have been realistic? Because there's plenty of comments about how, well,
I don't.
this land, it's too broad. There's not enough specifications on what it should or
That's
shouldn't
that.
be,
That's
what you
the.
can use it for, that kind of stuff.
And instead of having that conversation about, hey, here, let's try this protection. Let's have this language so that it can satisfy our goal to protect these special places. If we would have done that instead of just saying no discussion is allowed, no support at all is allowed, because that shutting down that conversation makes it so you can't find an optimum solution. And in politics, which is what Mike Lee was doing, it's politics.
Right.
It is you put an idea out there and then you bring other voices into the discussion and then optimize that idea, right, to
Hmm.
satisfy the best possible the different demands that are there. But the truth is, I live in Cody. I pay the taxes here. Like I live in this community. I'm trying to build a business that supports this community and Wyoming. I support almost 100 families in this business, and we have a huge housing problem in this community. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. And I go look at this piece of land out here and I say, why does some douchey, you know, Montana, or I won't say Texas, California person,
You can, it's fine.
dictate changes that would benefit our community because they think that someday they might want to go for a hike in that spot.
Right.
And like, where does that? It's kind of back to that same thing. It's like your ideas, trump everybody else's concerns and interest, and it's a very selfish and it's a very self-centered way, I think, to look at the world. But if you don't have opposing views and it just ramrods through, then potentially it could have been bad because we shouldn't trust the government at all. We shouldn't trust the extremely wealthy interests and their power and their ability to take money and do things that are reprehensible.
Hmm.
So we should absolutely have distrust, but we kind of threw the baby out with the bathwater. There was an opportunity there to really benefit a lot of Western states and to claw back some of this overreach that I think that our government has in, this land ownership, vehicle. So
Yeah.
that's just my opinion, though.
No, fair point. So emotion out of it, everybody's able to talk and be friendly at the dinner table. What, in your opinion, what's the perfect fix? What's it look like?
I don't think there's a perfect fix, but I do think they were onto some language that was right in that it needs to have local support.
Hmm.
Because why would anybody know better about this piece of land out here than
Then
local
you.
support?
Yeah.
And if we can get local support to do this, guess who's not going to want to support it? Private landholders right here that have driven the cost of land up, the cost to develop up, right? They're not going to support it,
Hmm.
right? But people who are actually trying to afford homes or to grow businesses, they're going to be very interested in it. And there's going to be a healthy debate that's local, right? That talks about that. And maybe this piece is decided that it's a possible and it gets proposed and it gets some oversight and maybe it gets some action.
Yeah. Makes sense to me. Time will tell, though, so we'll have to see.
Well, I don't think anything's going to happen now, so we're still on that whole
Yeah, we
government
we
owns
might we
everything
might have
train.
scorched the earth a little bit.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
So I want to talk. I know we're quickly, time's flying by, quickly approaching that hour mark, but I want to ask you about some of your own personal hunting experiences, and I'll start kind of circling back to the gunwork side of everything and the whole mission behind what you guys are accomplishing and everything. What do you what do you take out there in the woods with you as far as your weapon?
You know, that is a good question. I like to take something that's new. Sometimes it's something that's not released to the public yet.
Right.
I
You
did a
got
hunt in
R&D. You
Spain.
got to do it.
Yeah, I did a hunt in Spain this year. Hey, you know what's crazy is you can take a product and you can test it. The engineering guys can test it, and you can put it through all these paces, and you could do that for 6 months, hardcore, absolute destructive testing, and then you go out on one hunt and you will fail something immediately.
Wow.
There's something that happens in the demand of the hunt that has a tendency to destroy things or to find the worst possible combination and fail. And I can think of a lot of those, but I
Yeah.
like to take those products on a real hunt because it creates a true test.
Hmm.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to the show. Hope you guys are enjoying it. There's so many different places that you guys can tune in to Fall Obsession Podcast, and one of them is the Outdoor Call radio app. Outdoors Dan from Respect the Game TV, he created an app that you can download on any device where you can stream hunting shows and podcasts on a loop every single day. Our show, Fall Obsession Podcast, plays on that loop on Mondays. That's the same day as our new publications on the other apps. And there's also tons of other hunting shows and podcasts on there that you guys can listen to. Go download the Outdoor Call Radio app today. It is free. You can start streaming immediately. And be sure that you follow their Facebook page because Outdoors Dan does some live radio shows throughout the week. And even if you are not local to those radio stations, his broadcasts are shared on his Facebook Live. It's Outdoors Dan and the Outdoor Call Radio app. Go download it today.
And really does because you
Yeah.
break things. So it's nice to do that. Um, we've got a really cool folding chassis that I took on that Spain hunt. It was fun. Found a few things we wanted to fix. So I've been hunting with that a few times this last year. Our Nexus rifle is so amazing to shoot. Like the recoil impulse is so significantly different than anything else.
Mm.
I have a hard time not wanting to take that rifle everywhere.
Yeah. From the man himself.
7 PRC. Seven
From
PRC.
awesome. So, you're from Cody, Wyoming. You just talked about a hunt in Spain. What does a hunting season look like for you as far as where are you going? What are you doing? How many different places do you I guess we can look at 2025 coming up and the remainder of this upcoming season. What do you have on your horizon?
So probably looking forward, like hunts to look forward to, I have 6 kids. Um, Now there's a couple spouses, there's some grandkids. Obviously my wife, friends here at Gunwerks that hunt. And we all put in for, a good elk tag, a good antelope tag here
Yeah.
in Wyoming. And usually, those are the things I look forward to. My youngest daughter drew a kind of a cool wilderness area elk hunt this year. It's going to be exciting to go do that one with her. A son drew kind of our good old boy spot for elk where we, have great success shooting mediocre bulls. That's pretty fun. We'll go do that one. So those are probably highlights. I'm going to go do a Marco Polo hunt end of the year. That'll be
Oh,
pretty
wow.
fun. It's always something I've wanted to do, and I have a hunt in Australia coming up with water buffalo
Oh, wow.
and bantang. There's a couple buffalo down there, and then we'll do some coal shooting while we're there. Um, that should be pretty fun. We usually try to put together a trip to Africa every year. I've done that for about 15 years in a row. That's
Wow.
that's one of my favorite places to go. Spring hunts, try to put together a spring hunt like Spain or something else that gives you an opportunity to get out and do something spring out at. There's a couple other hunts that you can do that work that way.
Yeah.
Uh, I love sheep hunting, but that's gotten to the point where it's crazy expensive, and I don't know that I'll get to do any more that I'm pulling the trigger on. But sheep hunting's always been pretty fun.
Yeah. So I do have a question with you being a Wyoming resident. Um, I'll preface it by saying I've never hunted Wyoming. It's on the list, but haven't made it happen yet. So I'm hearing a lot about just tag increases, or not tag increases, price increases for licenses and everything, particularly in Wyoming. Being a resident, being very tuned into that, can you speak to that a little bit as far as the trends that you're seeing? And it may be different for resident, non-resident. I'm asking because I'm
I think
ignorant and
I
I don't
think
know.
we used to do like 25% for non-resident, and I think they just limited that to 10.
Hmm.
We just for ourselves, we just made a bunch of these animals once in a lifetime, like moose, sheep, goat, which they should have done that decades ago. That's actually something I've been pissed off about, for a long time. But the non-resident fees going up. Um, I understand that hurts, but Gunwerks needs to hire people. If you want to move to Wyoming and get cheap tags, it's like done. It's like let's go.
Yeah.
Like look at the website. Pick the job that works. Come here. Like we've moved so many people here to Wyoming and to Cody, and then to watching that cycle of they're finally residents and they put in and then they start drawing, and then even when they don't draw, they can still go hunt general elk, general deer. There's always a leftover pronghorn unit that you can figure out how to you know you know hunt state land or whatever to get something killed. And I think if you want better opportunities, it's like you got to move to where the opportunities are,
Hmm.
right? There's a cost in one way or the other.
Oh yeah. No, that's a great perspective. That's not something that I've heard a lot on this show. Whenever I talk about any respective state and cost of hunting licenses, tags, draw applications, all that kind of stuff, it's always, oh, it's going up. It's going to cost you more money. I like that perspective. That's refreshing.
The truth is, if you look at how much we actually spend, it's not. The tag cost is very small.
That's a fact. I'm over here in Texas dropping hundreds and thousands of dollars every year on hunting, and I'm excited because I got free meat in a freezer full of venison. It's
Yeah.
like that's the most expensive meat on the planet. Golly, yeah, I hear you. Um, got a couple quick questions for you before we wrap it up. These are questions that I like to ask anybody who comes on the show for the first time. And the first one is just simple. What is your favorite hunting memory to date that you've had in your life?
I get asked that a lot. I mean, I've probably been on several hundred hunts. And we
Wow.
were trying to count up how many animals I pulled the trigger on. And I mean, we're closer to 1,000 than we are 500.
Wow. Golly.
So it's hard to pick one.
Hmm.
Um, some of the painful memories are the best ones.
Yeah, that's a fact.
I can think of some great stuff. Like my daughter drew a sheep tag, and I don't get to see her very much, but she drew a sheep tag when she was 16, and I was up on the mountain helping some friends kill some elk, and we seen sheep up there high, and I hiked out, in the dark, and went all the way down to a late volleyball game she was playing in, pulled her out of the game, drug her back up there, and we hiked back in that night, and then we were on sheep the next morning, and
Oh,
we
wow.
hunted hard, to kill a sheep. Didn't get one of those killed. That was a pretty fun hunt. Um, my brother's first sheep. We did a hunt up in when we first started this business. We'd found an opportunity to go do that, and that was pretty special. There's still some pretty good vibes for that.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I hunt with a friend down in South Africa. I don't even want to go to a different place. I just go down there and hang out and shoot and hunt. But it's like there's a handful of places that are so good that you develop friendships and connections. And that's a piece of, for me, hunting is killing, right? It's exercising the equipment to be successful with a perfect shot and a clean kill. Like that's what hunting's kind of evolved into for me. So when
Mhm.
I find, special connections and friends and experiences that way, those tend to stand out very much
Yeah.
um because it's so different than what this driven, driving, objective of the kill that I make. But
Yeah.
that's hard. I can't pick you one.
That's okay. A lot of experiences to choose from. And that in itself, especially with the number you just gave me, closer to 1,000 than what'd you say? Closer to 1,000 than 500? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Wow. So that being the case, this next question I have, again, I ask everybody, what is on your bucket list that you haven't gotten to kill yet that you want to? What's that in your mind, that once in a lifetime thing that is still hanging over you?
I actually am not one of those guys.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those guys. I'm not checking off a list. So for me, I want a new experience. I love experiencing different cultures
Hmm.
most of the time. So I really like that part of a new adventure. I remember, okay, back to the hunting story. So my brother and I, we used to go try to, grab a tag and go hunt somewhere. I remember we drove over the mountain once in December to hunt turkeys, and we drove 200 miles around Buffalo asking people for permission to shoot a turkey because they were everywhere. And we finally got permission and we got turkey shot. We drove all the way over to Hewlett once and we had no permission anywhere. And we were scouting and trying to find, okay, does this state section, do we have access? Does it look like it could have animals, this, that? And it got late. And so we literally pulled off the side of the road. There was a state section, a public land section where they were doing some construction. There's two big concrete culverts, and we slept in one of these concrete
Huh.
culverts, in our sleeping bags, and woke up in the morning and there was turkeys gobbling up on the hill, and we ran up there and shot one. It's like we've done all sorts of crazy adventures, like finding something new, a new place, a new opportunity. And so for me, the circle is just getting wider,
Yeah.
because we've done all sorts of Wyoming and Montana and then Utah and Colorado and Kansas, and it just gets bigger. And now it's California, and now we're up in Canada and then Alaska, and now we're doing some international stuff. But just looking for that next, you know, experience, opportunity, that next friendship, and I think those are pretty fun. I think maybe one more trip way north for uh, a bear.
Hmm.
I think that's something that's kind of getting some horizon. The sheep hunting and mountains are very special. So whatever my fat ass can, get done on that front, I'm in. Like I want to do as much of that as I can. I'll do Africa every year. So I think there's some cool stuff there. If I throw in one more piece, which is what's the next product that we're going to build? I've always wanted to do like a double rifle. So if we did a kind of a special, skunk works project with a double, it's like I'd want to go to Africa and shoot elephants with it,
Yeah.
right? So there's a piece of what we're doing where what is this other product? And then it's like, well, what's the perfect hunt for that? And kind of
Yeah.
marrying the
Now I got to go
product
on it.
to
Yeah.
the experience. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a cool answer, man. I need to take a page out of your book. Stop checking off a list and just look for the next experience. That's awesome. Well, man, anything else that we've missed or that you want to hit on Gunwerks before we wrap it up for the podcast?
Nah, no, I think we covered all sorts of stuff. I probably should make a rule to not talk politics associated with my company. Usually try to keep my personal opinions out of there, but I do really feel strongly in, you know, limiting government and and individual freedoms and rights. and just being very, very, very careful that we don't give away our freedom for like a sense of safety, for personal reasons. Like keep as much freedom as we possibly can, and just as a community, I think we can do a lot better in having great conversations about how we can maintain personal freedom, and rather than the trend of more government and more legislation and more imposition of other opinions.
I agree. I think I'm going to send this episode after it drops to every hunter I know, because I think that there's some stuff in here that guys definitely should pay attention to when it comes to just our normal reactions and the emotions that we tend to base a lot of our opinions and decisions on. There's
Yeah,
some stuff to be learned.
let's not be sheep that are manipulated by other people.
Yeah.
I think that's the key thing. It's like don't be one of the crowd that the politicians or the influencers stir up, to get out your angry pitchforks so they can manipulate you into achieving something that they want. Let's
Mhm.
be intelligent. Let's have great conversations. Let's be open to other perspectives, and let's be let's be true conservatives in the sense of that word, and stand up for freedom.
Very well said. Perfect way to end it off too. Thank you for
All
that.
right.
Well,
Thanks for
Aaron,
your time.
I appreciate your time, man. Thank you for coming on the show. I really enjoyed this conversation, and yeah, thank you very much. For our listeners, appreciate y'all tuning in. I will be back with you guys again next week for another podcast. Catch you then.